Hello my friends and welcome back. It's Friday, so happy Friday to you. Once my weekday work week is over, I'm gonna head to a bar and grab a cold one. Alcohol free, that is. I'm trying to cut down on alcohol. I have a video here that shows exactly how the entire Ukrainian nation is coping and dealing with the fact that their entire country is being assaulted by a neighbor, Russia. Aggression, crime of aggression. You can make lemonade if life gives you lemons. You can make something beautiful out of even the worst things that happen to you. It's not about what happens. It is about how you deal with it, how you react to it, because somebody said it, you cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. And this girl here has chosen beautifully. Now, my friends, I'll bring you an important analysis that tells a few truths about the war that not many people talk about. There's some criticism about Ukraine and some criticism about Russia, and both strong and weak points. I'll read you the analysis. I think we cannot ignore this to see the real picture. The situation in Pokrovsk is indeed severe, but far from hopeless. Ukrainian command has the resource needed for stabilization, though this will require difficult and potentially unpopular decisions. Pokrovsk in eastern Ukraine is the area where Russians have been advancing very fast and quite efficiently, actually. Ukrainians have been retreating, and there's a big salient of Russian forces, and they do threaten a very vital Ukrainian logistical hub in the near weeks. Resource shortage stem from both internal and external factors. Internally, issues include delayed mobilization, an ineffective recruitment process, an awful commanding structure, and the government's struggle to balance public opinion with necessary measures. Now, this is a very important sentence because Ukraine as a country, as a democratic country, they cannot just make decisions, even in self-defense situation, make unpopular decisions. Public opinion is very vital, even to this day in Ukraine, for politicians, for the government, and for the military. Military needs to have a very positive public opinion and trust. Head of government, Zelensky, and the government body itself needs to have trust of the people and a positive public opinion. That is their mandate to lead during the war. So they have to balance necessary decisions with the positive public opinion all the time. Externally, delays in Western aid, persistent restrictions on weapons use, insufficient military productions ramp up, and slow aid delivery contribute to the problem. The issues in Pokrovsk are not new. Delayed aid from the United States, hindered by an isolationist faction in the United States Congress, made the fall of Avdiivka faster for Russian forces. This was exaggerated by inadequate defense behind Avdiivka, which Ukrainian leadership chose to overlook, shifting responsibility to already overstretched and undermanned brigades. The situation in Pokrovsk worsened with the Kursk offensive operation, which diverted experienced and motivated brigades, stripping stabilization reserves and allowing Russian forces to advance rapidly. So there are many Western military analysts and Ukrainian officers who accuse Ukrainian leadership of military of conducting the Kursk offensive because these forces are needed in eastern Ukraine when Russia is advancing. But Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, the leadership, chief of staff, they have the experience of Avdiivka and Bakhmut. In Bakhmut, for example, Ukrainians deployed their best units into Bakhmut to hold it, not to give away ground like they're doing it right now in Pokrovsk area. And Ukraine lost a vast amount of troops there without any benefit to it. Yes, they eliminated tens of thousands of Russian manpower, but they lost Bakhmut in the end, and they lost vital manpower. A good fighter is very hard to train. They now decided to use these kind of elite brigades in Kursk, not to send them to be butchered in East Ukraine. They're giving away land there slowly, but they have decided on a different strategy and deployed them in Kursk to a great offensive effect. It's a different strategy, and it has sparked a lot of criticism, but you cannot ignore the effectiveness of the Kursk invasion. Now I'll read you a quote. "If we keep doing what we're doing, Ukraine will eventually lose," Breedlove said. "Because right now we are purposely not giving Ukraine what they need to win. Ukraine's daring ground offensive has taken the fight to Russia, but not nearly as much as its leaders would like, because they say United States won't let them." And we'll get into it later, but there is a list of ground military targets, Russian military targets, which are bordering the oblasts with Ukraine, and there's over 200 of them, just listed one by one on a map. Just pinpoint and strike. All you need is weaponry. The West has that weaponry. Even Ukraine has that weaponry, but there are restrictions. Now I'll read you another quote. "There is no more important task in Czech foreign and security policy today than the continued support for Ukraine." That is said by Czech President Petr Pavel. And that's one of the most badass dudes in NATO politicians ever. I love the dude, love the fact how he speaks, and he speaks the truth. Quote, "Stopping and above all the failure of Russian aggression is in our vital interests." Yes, we need more leaders like him. Talking about the Kursk invasion and the critics of the Kursk invasion for not deploying the best Ukrainian units into eastern Ukraine, into the mincing machine, I'll read you a report about the Kursk invasion. In Kursk Oblast, the Ukrainian armed forces carried out wave attacks on Martinovka, Ruskoye Berechnoye and Malaya Loknya, using military equipment throughout yesterday. 3 attacks on Kremyanoye were repelled. The enemy tried to infiltrate Komarovka on foot through a forest belt. The Ukrainian armed forces are also still trying to bypass Korenova. North of Sucha, there was an attempt to attack Cherkaskoye, Berechnoye and Novosadnitsky. Counter battles continue in the south of Sucha district. This is a Russian report, so we know it's true. Ukrainians are incredibly actively pushing still in Kursk Oblast to a great effect. There is an entire cauldron forming or surroundment by natural barriers. To the north there's a river, to the south there's the Ukrainian border, to the west also, and to the east there are Ukrainian forces, and that's the surroundment of about 3,000 Russian soldiers. All 3 bridges over the same river have been destroyed, and these soldiers could swim across. The river is about 200 meters, but they cannot take any equipment with them, perhaps even not weaponry. Now here is a video, my friends, of a Russian store, a smaller supermarket, whatever you call it. It is in a town under a Russian control in Kursk Oblast. Rilsk is the name of the town. I'll say it again, it's under Russian control. After looting the Russian town in Glushkova, which is still under Russian army control, first instances of looting are reported from Rilsk, another town in the Kursk region, yet under Russian army control. And this behavior of the civilians and army alike, many people thought, okay, Russian army, they're savages because they loot, they steal. But my friends, an army is always the reflection of an entire society to which the army belongs to. Russian army is the reflection of the entire Russian society. The way the army behaves is the way the civilians behave if the discipline goes down or if the state powers are taken away, if the police is no more. For example, in Rilsk, which is like 30 kilometers from the Kursk front line right now, fully Russian city under Russian control, but the army is already leaving there, police is leaving there, and we have the first instances of looting immediately from the Russian civilians. Now what happened if Russians attacked Ukraine in 24th of February and in the border towns, Ukrainian civilians, what did they do? They did not loot the shops. They came to the streets with Ukrainian flags. They went to the intersections of bigger roads and they made human walls against Russian tanks. Now compare that to the same situation in Kursk. What are the Russian citizens doing? They're looting their own stores. So it really tells you about the cross-section of the society. Ukraine versus Russia, Ukrainian army versus Russian army. What we see in this store is what the Russian society is really inside. It's a society of theft, stealing, looting, and several various war crimes. Now, my friends, I'll read you a very short commentary about a guy who went to the Kursk Oblast just to see what was going on there. He's a Western guy, just to analyze what he sees as a regular civilian there, and it's pretty interesting. We spent a couple of days on the Ukrainian side of the border with Kursk last week as Ukraine conducts its offensive into Russia. A few impressions. And the guy's name is, by the way, Patrick Revel. Shout out to him. Props to going there, my friend. The thing that strikes you the most is the number of Ukrainian military vehicles racing in and out of Kursk. Every 5 minutes we saw armored vehicles go past in both directions. Also the variety of vehicles from Humvees, other MRAPs, to sedan cars and pickups. As one local Ukrainian officer told us, we're fighting like the Tuareg, just piling over the border with pickups. It means the Tuareg tribe, I think. The other thing that strikes you is how huge the area is, even on the Ukrainian side. Vast sweeping fields, even the 10 to 15,000 Ukrainian troops estimated to be in Kursk would quickly stretch thin. No wonder it was reported big areas were empty of both Russian and Ukrainian troops. We also met some Russian prisoners of war. They were all young conscripts. They told us their commanders abandoned them on the first day when Ukrainian shelling started. Some said that they spent 3 days wandering in the fields without food or water until Ukrainian troops found them. So yeah, Ukrainian lands, and Kursk was Ukrainian land. It's the big steppe area still, ending already. The southern steppes are ending in that area, but they're stretching a little bit. It's a very big agricultural area, meaning vast fields. So imagine you're a Russian conscript, your supervisors abandon you, and Ukrainians are there to invade this land. So you want to give up, but you spend 3 days on the fields just wandering around before you see the first Ukrainian soldier. Just the area is so huge, the fields are so huge and empty. It's a little bit of a bizarre example. They said that they had minimal training and had no idea the Ukrainian attack was coming. There was no sign that they were being mistreated at the prison, and they said the Red Cross visited them the day before. My friends, it's Friday after all, so I want to treat you a little bit of a spicy meme. Spice, This is free thinkers gobbling up Russian propaganda. It is. We'll get into it later, how Russia's biggest and greatest weapon is division. And you can do that by playing that's the truth. That's how it is. The protesters on the western streets, I'm not going to go into it, but half of the reasons that they protest for, I know personally from my sources that these reasons and these movements are funded, not directly, but indirectly by Russian state budget. So, free thinkers definitely gobbling up Russian propaganda. Talking about Russian propaganda, I bring you Russian war correspondent Zlatkov, who expresses his frustration about the Russian commanders in this video. It's a very short one, and I'll read you the subtitles. Colonel sets a task to the young battle commander and captain. He says, let's move out. Let's move forward. How? They will kill all of us. He was told that he is a stupid captain. You go forward. And don't think. Take your conscripts and move forward. Oh, and this is my imagination. This is my afterthought. That was told me by my mind through the phone. Conversation with a competent person. You can't treat people like that. If you put boots on them and give a gun into their hands, a gun, then he is obliged to shoot and to die in first place. And how do you prepare him for this? How do you even prepare him mentally? If they were being surrendered in batches, they lay there under the Kursk bulge along with their peers. So Zlatkov is angry about Russian leadership who commanded the conscript units in Kursk. He's angry that the conscripts should die or kill themselves on the battlefield. Like we see Russian soldiers doing so much in eastern Ukraine. When their unit gets destroyed, their last bullet goes. This guy is angry that the conscripts surrender. Guy is angry at 18-year-old Russian boys who want to have a life in front of them and decide not to throw it away. This guy is angry. You should, if you have boots on your feet and a gun in your hand, you're obliged to die for Russia. This is how the guy thinks. And this is how Russian young population does not think. That's what they're surrendering. So there's a huge disconnect between Russian boomers who were born in the Soviet times and live believing Putin and his goons, and the younger generation who were forced into conscription and they just surrender because they want to have a life. Now, my friends, another meme for your Friday before you crack open a cold brewski. I am inside my borders, you can't touch me. The Ukrainian guy steps closer. Yes, I can. That is the Kursk invasion summarized for you. By the way, how is Russia dealing with the fact that Putin is so afraid to declare mobilization? Army needs men. They need tens of thousands of men monthly because that's the loss is pretty much 25 to 30,000 casualties with wounded, of course. But that's the number Russians are taking right now and past the last 2 years. So how do they deal with these losses? Moscow police are to be paid 50,000 rubles or $558 bounty for each person they persuade to sign up for the military service, including immigrants and homeless people. The initiative will create more incentives for corruption for Russia's already notoriously corrupt police. So that gives Russian police an incentive to just grab all the homeless people in the city, force them to give a signature, just throw them in a van and drive to Donetsk. These police who do that get, in Russia, in Moscow, that's a big amount of money. They get thousands. If they, for example, you're a policeman, in 1 month you're very active and you clean the streets of 10 homeless people, you put them in a van and drive to Donetsk, force them to give the signatures, you get $5,000 for it. You don't have to go to the front even. You just push the homeless people there. This is from Russian Telegram channels from Moscow. Without exception, noted that the amount would be a good incentive for ordinary police officers when working with the population. That's what they call it. We have many videos of Russian police cracking down in legal and illegal immigrants in Moscow. Immigrants from south and east go to Moscow, from Kazakhstan, from Mongolia. They go to Moscow to work, sometimes legally, sometimes illegally. And that's what the police uses immediately because they're immigrants. They are forced to give a signature, they're thrown onto a van like meat, and the police officer who does it gets some little extra cash. That's the system Putin has set up. Let's for a moment jump back to the Telegram case. Pavel Durov, the CEO of Telegram, has now been released for a bail. The bail is $5 million. I think he already paid it. But now he has officially been charged by the French government. The Telegram founder has been placed under judicial supervision and is banned from leaving France. He must pay bail of 5 million euros. Durov is charged under 6 articles and he's facing up to over 10 years in prison. Now, he will possibly go to prison and is found guilty because he is guilty in those charges, but he has plenty of leverage over the French and over the Russians. Whoever he decides to make a deal with, will French have him right now, so he has to make the deal with the French. He can give them a lot. Telegram is, communication-wise, it's everything to the Russian army and Wagner. And France has a huge issue with Wagner in Africa. So if they get some kind of a deal, getting some handle over Telegram as a communication channel, then they have a handle over Wagner in Africa and over the Russian army. And then Ukraine might have a handle over Russian army's communication. So I am expecting a deal. We might not find about it as public, as general public, but I'm expecting a secret deal here. Now, my friends, are you ready for it? Are you American? Have you watched one of these wrestling matches where just huge meat guys are like, ooga booga? Hey, get ready. We have European wrestling for you because I present to you Poland. Poland is an European country which is on steroids, is injecting left and right because their military budget is going to be 4.7% of GDP in 2025, which is about $58.3 billion. It is the biggest percentage of any NATO country, percentage of GDP. Poland was not prepared in 1939 and they bore the brunt of the Soviet and German war crimes. They lost 25% of their entire population. Most of the cities were leveled to the ground. They have a long memory and they don't forgive. So they're preparing now more than any other country in the world. Poland as a military in 10 years is going to be an existential threat for the existence of Russia and Belarus. They're strong as hell. The Polish army should grow to 300,000 soldiers. The country also strengthens defense on the borders with Russia and Belarus, increases its own military production and buys weapons in the United States and South Korea. And if some people are like, oh, 300,000 soldiers, that's nothing. Oh, Russia has 1 million only in Ukraine. My friends, Russian soldier is with boots and guns and even no vest. A mediocre Polish soldier is, according to NATO, Western standard, incredibly well equipped, trained, motivated, and they have a strong hatred for the Russians because their grandfathers and grandmothers told them stories. There is no comparison between 1 million Russians and Russian soldiers and 300,000 NATO standards Polish soldiers. They're not even on the same scale. Poland already leads in military spending among EU and NATO countries. This decision is due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and constant threats from Moscow and Minsk. But will the corrupt and backwards economies of Putin and Lukashenko regimes be able to compete in a military confrontation with the West? No, they won't. In a direct military confrontation, there is no competition. The issue is that the West is a little bit blind sometimes and they don't see Russian weapons as weapons. Propaganda, soft power, even Russian Orthodox Church, they're all weapons. But the West sometimes, they're slowly waking up, but they are having trouble labeling them as weapons, making the West impossible to defend themselves against these weapons. So first we need to call a Russian weapon a weapon. Then we need to establish a defense against it. We're right now slowly waking up. And now, my friends, to just illustrate the previous point, I present to you the first ever Polish F-35. It's called the Hussar. And if you know what the winged hussars did, they stormed and destroyed the enemy army with one fast swoop. Just rode over it, dispersing the entire army. The first Polish F-35A Lightning II has been unveiled in Texas. It has been named Hussar. The most advanced fighter in the world is capable of destroying military targets in the air and at the sea, and also on ground, of course, performing reconnaissance missions and electronic warfare. Poland has ordered a total of 32 such aircraft, the first of which is to be delivered in December 2025. This fall, the United States will begin training Polish pilots. And that's not it. Okay, Poland, right next to Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, the Baltics, so Walkie Gap, and then Poland. Well, north to Estonia is Finland. What are they doing? Well, they bought over 60 F-35s, which are to be delivered in a few years. So Poland and Finland will have F-35s, and Finland will also have the long-range JASSM missiles from the United States. Poland is supposed to buy 1,000 Western main battle tanks. I mean, these two military juggernauts of the European Union and NATO, and we are the Baltic in between, and we are also getting ready. I don't see anything coming over that eastern border. Now, my friends, I present to you the latest Russian military invention. It is the latest weapon that no Western country still has. It's a 40-year-old BMW with a coupe cage. Now, this is German engineering in a BMW combined with a Russian ingenuity, the coupe cage. This is a car. It's not only a car. It's a car with a coupe cage, and it can go 60 kilometers per hour. That is almost as fast as I walk. It is an incredibly slow vehicle, but it gives you the mental illusion of safety as a Russian soldier. Now, my friends, I get to the point that I mentioned before, which is that one of Russia's greatest invisible weapons that the West just does not understand that can be used as a weapon is division. Russia is paying anybody, any organization, any union in the West or individual in the West who agrees to divide the West. These people or organizations don't need to have anything in common with Russia. They don't need to be pro-Russia. They just need to create division and conflict in the West. Check this out. Russia, through the social media platforms, establish fake pro-Ukraine accounts. Through the platforms, set up cross-platform accounts, buy followers to increase numbers, start with pro-Ukrainian messaging, attract legitimate followers, gradually add constructive criticism of Ukraine, begin to attack legitimate pro-Ukraine organizations, increase negativity, make up allegations of corruption and I don't know what that is, attack individuals who push back on false charges, responses magnified by algorithm, unwitting followers, sock puppets amplify your negative messages, sow mistrust and chaos, recriminations, repeat across all platforms. Russia has these cells in Europe and in America. These, again, I'm not going to call out anybody, but I would say half of the protests on the streets of the Western world, I will find, and I'm sure of it 100%, I will find a connection to Russian funded organization that has nothing to do with Russia, nothing to do with Russian idealism, only it has funded by Russia because they create conflict and division in the West by the protests. They divide the society, and a society divided is weak. So that's what they do. Let's call it a weapon and let's defend ourselves against it. United we stand strong. Now, my friends, I want to show you a video. Look at this. You might think that this is a city in eastern Ukraine. Perhaps it's a city that the Russians bombarded. Perhaps it's a city that was already destroyed by war in 2014. But no, this is Vorkuta, a city in Russia. Not bombarded ever. At all. Never. This is how it is. This is the city under Putin's governance, under Putin's leading system of theft and corruption, where no money is ever being allocated here to fix it. People live here. These are the people, and then there's thousands more. They live in these houses. No heat, no electricity, no running water. Vorkuta has a connection to my family because my great-grandfather, so the father of my grandfather, was I'm a big dude. He was also, in the early 1920s, he was already huge dude living in free Estonia, about 6.5 tall and about 250 pounds, like huge Estonian farmer. What the Soviets did when they came in, they discovered that Estonians are a very hard-working nation, and that's why the Estonian farmers and peasants are quite wealthy, because they have, some have bees, some have cows, some have forests, apple trees, you know. They know how to make money, they're wealthy, they work and they generate income. Russians did not like that because the Soviet revolution was all about like taking everything from everybody else and bringing it to Moscow. That's what it was all about. It was just a massive theft of everything. So they declared and invented such a state as Kulak, such a societal class. They invented it, which is a wealthy farmer. Kulak, not gulag, Kulak, a wealthy farmer. Most of Estonian farmers were declared kulaks because the Estonian nation is a very hard-working nation, and they just, in the 20s, first tractors and farming equipment started coming from the West, and they just worked really hard. And the farms became wealthy because of selling honey and apples and meat and milk, everything to everywhere, basically. Yeah, and 1939, when the Soviet army occupied Estonia, they had this fake fabricated societal class as kulaks, which they declared the enemy of the state because these kulaks had more than a Soviet person should have. So they stole everything from the kulaks and deported all these kulaks to Siberia, or shot them on sight, or deported them to Gulag, which is a prison camp. So Vorkuta had one of the most infamous gulags of the Soviet Union, and my great-grandfather was deported to Vorkuta prison camp. This is the city of Vorkuta right there, it's near there. And there, I know exactly what happened to him. He was starved to death. So in that city I just showed you, in that prisoner camp, my great-grandfather found his end because he was very, very hard-working, and the Soviets wanted to steal his farm. They did steal his farm, his food, everything he had. And by the way, the same time they deported him to the Gulag, they deported my grandfather, the son of my great-grandfather. He was 4 years old, to Siberia. The same story. So my lineage goes very deep, way back. This Russian aggression is not 2014 or 2024. My personal lineage is already 1 century. But Estonia as a nation, we're talking about almost 1,000 years here. Now, my friends, for the last time of this week, and right before I'm gonna crack open a cold brewski, I'm gonna butcher some Buy Me a Coffee monthly members with my Estonian pronunciation. Get ready for some ear bleeding. Steven Porter, Antoni Rose, Emil Aagaard Grau, Malcolm.T.Ausie, Janko G. Thank you to these monthly members. You guys allow me to do what I do. I deliver these videos. You guys enable me to do this, so thank you. Until my next video, which will be on Monday, so be sure to be back. Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.